Tonight's top story out of Serbia, former member of SEAL Team 6 and now mercenary Daniel Corbett has been locked up by Serbian authorities who say that he was there on a mission to assassinate the president. More details to come.
The night of the party, the kid that was pretty much recruited to be a source, he comes back to his apartment, and I'm there, gets thrown in handcuffs, and I look at him and I look back up to where the door is, and I have a pistol pointed at my head. All right, let me tell you what's gonna happen. This is already getting ran to the newspaper. There's an ex-Navy SEAL here. No one knows why he's here. He's a professional soldier, and they're gonna run with this. They're gonna say you're here to kill the president.
Daniel Corbett, better known as Dirty.
Yeah.
Went through buds at 18 years old. Was part of SEAL Team 5, 17, and of course the notorious SEAL Team 6. Seen combat in Afghanistan, the Philippines, and I'm sure much more. After that, operated as a mercenary for nearly a decade. Saw places like Yemen, Egypt, and again, I'm sure more. And then finally, of course, was part of an international crisis with an arrest in Belgrade. Welcome on the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
You've lived quite the life, brother.
Thank you. And I like to tell myself I'm just getting started. So maybe that's ignorance and trying to stay young forever, but we'll see.
There's always new stories to be written. Doesn't have to still, you don't have to go to Eastern Europe and get arrested.
True.
There's awesome stuff you can do here too.
Maybe it'll be a different genre the next chapters of my life.
Yep. I like that. I'm looking forward to the book on that one. So let's jump into it. I love to always start off just to really get to know, kind of your childhood, where you grew up. So I guess, where did everything start?
Was born in Hawaii, and when people find that out and they're from there, they start talking to me in pidgin and like asking me like where I'm from, my north side or this. And I'm like, I moved when I was 1. So dad was in the Army, was born in Hawaii, moved all around, and then by 6th grade, we had settled in Northern California, just south of Sacramento. And from there all the way through high school was home.
Perfect. And you're moving around for military mostly, and then settled in California?
Northern California.
Northern California. So with your dad being in the Army, do you think your household, was it kind of like the stereotypical military type household? Was it a little more relaxed? Like, what was family life there?
No, it wasn't like American Beauty or anything crazy like that. My dad was super chill, good, loving father. Was never used like military time or was like, yes, sir, no, sir. But even if he was, I wouldn't have noticed it because I was always putting on the camo face paint and trying. The MREs at the time were like dehydrated. And I thought they were so cool. And I had my fake gun in the backyard. So I don't think maybe he valued that much of that side of the military, or maybe he didn't just realize it wasn't the place to bring it home. And we weren't raised like that. So it was pretty chill.
Do you think that helped with your interest later in the military? Like, do you think if you had grown up in a situation that was a little bit more militaristic, would have changed it?
Who knows, right? Like, if it was, the super strict parents who said, don't ever sip alcohol, and then, the kid leaves the house and just goes crazy, or the other way around. I don't know.
So you played a lot of sports as a kid, football being the main one of them. How do you think that kind of impacted you as well growing up?
So football, team sport, and that's where I first started to see what like leaders were and how that went. And, there's a lot of good books on how to be a leader and stuff, but from what I've seen and learned through football, if you just perform and do the right thing, people start naturally coming to you and like, hey, what do you think about this? And then you just see leadership, right? You see someone becoming a leader, not trying to be a leader. It just kind of happens. So football taught me that, and then when I started doing triathlons, the endurance side, that really helped me, unbeknownst to me at the time, going on and doing very rigorous military training, having been to that mental space many times before on your own accord for fun, distance runs, bikes, or swims or whatever, that definitely helped as well.
Yeah, those kick my ass anytime I try to do that now. Being a lacrosse player, we did some conditioning, but some of the stuff
Yeah.
that Taylor told me. You guys, I don't think I could ever do it. But so what was the switch up from football to track? 'Cause that was senior year, right? Where you started
Cross
moving
country.
Cross country.
So football was like a staple in the family, a staple where I was growing up. It was damn near Friday Night Lights. Like it was just, if you weren't playing football, who were you in the town? So did that. And I was the kid in 7th grade that was 5'10", 170 pounds with a little beard coming in. So it was like, oh, this guy is going, but I'm still 5'10", 170. So it kind of just stopped. I was really fast. You know, my cognitive, hand-eye, everything was good. But I just kept getting like really fucked up. My back got fucked up, my ankle, my knee. And I'm like, dude, what are we doing here? And then you start looking how people are being recruited. It's like, they'll take a kid who can't play, who's 6'3", 240, and teach him how to play. You can't teach me how to be 6'3", 240. Mm-hmm. I go, man, is this a mountain I'm ready to die on and try to make my life out of? And I said, you know what, I'm gonna try cross country one year. And that was like big town news. I told everyone I was gonna play football, and I was lifeguarding at the local pool, and coach came by like, why aren't you playing football? Dad was pissed at me. I'm like, I don't see it. It's fun, but I'm just getting wrecked. In that junior year, you start playing varsity. Mm-hmm. These aren't the 13, 14, haven't hit puberty yet. Like we're going against everyone else that's now the kids that were 5'6" or 6'3" and they're big. I'm like, I'm gonna keep getting crushed. So I ran cross country instead that year.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a healthier sport physically.
Yeah.
Do you think, and we'll jump into kind of where the military interest started to spark here in a second, but let's say you had kept playing football. I mean, do you think you would have been able to get to buds or through buds as early as you were able to, just with how much that actually can impact your body? I mean, I got buddies, you know, one had liquid coming out of his ear, taking a hit too hard.
I think I made the shift at just the right time between saving my body and then getting my mindset and legs and lungs and everything ready for what that type of sport is, that more aerobic endurance versus, you know, a football play is 7 seconds long. So between preserving my body and getting it ready for a pretty big shift in what type of movements and endurance I needed, I think I made that transition at just the right time.
So when did military start popping up into your mind?
Running cross country, the assistant cross country coach said, hey, what are you doing after high school? I'm 17, and I guess when I was that age, I thought high school was forever. I thought this is just what life is. You know, we don't come from a family of academics. There was never, oh, we gotta make sure you get into Brown or Yale or not even the JC. Like it just never came up. So I was like, well, shit, I don't know. He's like, well, I'm going to Buds. I said, I don't know what that is. And he gave me the History Channel VHS tape, and I went home and popped it in the VCR, and I was like, oh, this is what's up. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how old was the cross country coach at that time?
The one that talked to me?
Yeah.
I think he was like 20 or 21.
Okay, so he wasn't like...
No, he was like finishing up his associates and was being the assistant cross country coach just to get ready to go to Buds.
Mm-hmm. Do you know if you ever made it through?
Yeah, he did.
He did?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you're starting to look at Navy's, and obviously you get to see what Buds is and the clips that come out of there. I mean, it's tough, of course. Was there any thought of any of the other, Army or looking at that, or was it just as soon as you saw that tape, you said, I'm going Navy?
When I saw the tape, I was hooked. When the guy said there was an interview and they're asking one of the SEALs, like, why are you guys so good? And he says, it's not that we're that good. It's just everyone else just sucks. And I said, I want to be around this guy. So I said, okay, military special forces, SEAL's my number one runner. That next school year, they had like the job fair and the gymnasium and all the different branches of the military were there. I was like, oh, what's your guys' program? What's your guys' program? Long story short, every other unit at that time, to be in that special unit, you had to go do 3 to 4 years doing something that wasn't that special to get screened to go. And it made sense why the Navy, you don't have to do that, because there's nothing that SEALs do that would be transferable from someone working on a ship. So there is no like junior SEALs or like regular infantry SEALs, or just Navy SEALs. So I said, oh, you can go straight into training and get through, and no prerequisites besides boot camp. And at that time in A school, they said, yep, you can just go straight in. And I was like, well, that's a no-brainer. And that was it.
So this is probably an obvious question, but I guess why Special Forces?
I think it goes back to the VHS videotape. They talked a lot about Vietnam and how they conducted missions, and the Navy SEALs had a 200-to-1 kill-death ratio. And they didn't have all the same standards and were allowed to kind of think outside the box a little bit more. I think that's what drew me to it.
So how did the recruiting process or the next steps go towards trying to become a SEAL?
Went into the recruiting station, and those guys were trying to do their jobs, you know. Hey, sign this. And I'm like, whoa, I'm 17. I can't. No, I was 16.
You were 16 at the time.
16. I said, I can't. They're like, well, you can sign at 17 if you get your parents' permission. I said, okay. I want to be a Navy SEAL. And that's music to their ears, right? I'm sure a large percentage of the Navy are kids who walked into the recruiting station and said, I want to be a Navy SEAL. And they're like, oh, yeah, we got you, buddy. It's going to be easy. And the guy that was my cross-country coach had since went off and went to boot camp. He said, don't sign anything until the contract says exactly what you want. I said, okay. So for the next year, I'm in and out of the recruiting station. Okay, at that time, you had to have a SEAL rating in the Navy. That means there was you had to pick one of like 32 jobs that were relevant to naval special warfare. And obviously, the recruiters are trying to get me to pick one based on the needs of the Navy. Mm-hmm. So they'd say, hey, you want to be a SEAL? You should go to gunner's mate school. It's weapons. I said, oh, that's cool. Weapons are cool. Even though I didn't really know shit about weapons, but I'm a dude, right? I'm like, all right, it's badass. Yeah. It's like, yeah, it's 6 months long, and you learn about ship cannons and all this shit. I'm like, wait. How long is it? 6 months? I said, I don't want that. He goes, what do you want? I said, what's the shortest school you have? He goes, it's parachute rigger, aircrew survival equipment men, 4 weeks in Florida. I said, that's the one then. So he's getting all the paperwork, get everything ready. Pleaded with mom and dad, 17th birthday, delayed entry program. It's called DEP, delayed entry program. So we did the delayed entry program, got my contract to go to that school after boot camp, get a chance to screen for the BUDS pipeline while in boot camp. And then upon graduation of my A school in Florida, I would then get orders to BUDS. So I got everything in writing, turned 17, mom and dad did that. I did the same thing, and then I planned it so that 1 month after my senior graduation, I'd go to boot camp. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of an insurance policy on myself, because people were saying, we're going to go to Cabo and this and that. I knew I'd get sucked into that and then say, oh, the Navy can wait. Maybe I'll go to a JC for a year. I don't know. I didn't want that to even be a thing. Yeah, not really. So I said, I'm going to graduate. This is the date. So a month after high school graduation, off to boot camp.
How did your parents react?
My parents have been unbelievably supportive since day one. If I would have told my mom when I was 15 or 12 or whatever age that I was going to be an astronaut, they would start looking at property at Cape Canaveral. Like they'd be like, okay, like he's gonna do it. So when I said, I'm gonna go do this, I'm gonna be a SEAL. And they said, okay, we'll go to your graduation. Not my boot camp graduation, like your bud's graduation. Okay, cool. Super supportive.
So you told him right away, like, I'm going to be a SEAL. Like, I'm not going to the Navy. I'm going to be a SEAL.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what did the screening process look like? Like, what does that tend to look like for buds? What are some expectations? And, you know, being at 18 years old, you know, what were some of the hurdles there?
Man, I think being 18 was an advantage, right? 'Cause I'm still made of like cartilage and a bunch of energy.
That's a good way to put it.
You know, 5 hours of sleep, nothing can hurt you. I was doing triathlons. I was running cross country, so like the running wasn't anything. The screening process, only thing that sucked about it in boot camp was that there's so many kids there. If you have someone that's counting shitty or you're like on the pull-up bar that's all rusty and isn't as good as the other one, they don't care, right? And obviously you should be good enough to where it doesn't matter, right? You should give me the shittiest area to run or do pull-ups or whatever the variable is. You should be able to like crush it. And the biggest challenge in the boot camp like screening process was waking up at 4:30 in the morning while everyone, you know, slept until 6 or 7 to go and march your ass all the way across the base to the pool and then do all the water training with the, I believe they're called dive motivators, the guys that are SEALs and guys who are on orders, but they have medical or something. So they had like a little community there at boot camp. And you go there and just get shit on by them for about 2 hours. But at least you get a workout in, because in Navy boot camp, you're not getting any workouts in. Yeah.
How comfortable did you feel during the screening process? Like, were you pretty confident? Did you think it was going well?
Yeah, I was really confident because of my ignorance. And I think that
it's a beautiful thing sometimes.
it is. And I think the amount of saturation and so much information on anything, but we'll focus on SEAL training, the run times, the swim, the pull-ups, and how long they can do this. And how I didn't know what any of those were. So when I was at home, I would just fucking run, come home, take a nap, eat some food, and then run again, because I didn't know where the finish line was. So I just trained till I couldn't. And I had my dad hooked me up. He went on, I don't think it was even Craigslist back then, but he bought me, it was used, it was called the Tower of Power. It was a freestanding pull-up bar, and the other side had dip bars.
I've never seen that.
Yeah, like $100.
Yeah.
So in the backyard, I just do max pull-ups, max dips, push-ups, and just keep going.
Yeah. How busy was the class? Was there a lot of, or not for the buds class, but the screening there? Like, was there a lot of people in your group there?
Because there was a lot of people that had that opportunity to, but this is where the recruiters get them. You don't have to do that big of a physical screener to join and you get the SEAL contract. But when all those kids that thought they were going to get a chance to try out for the bud screener in boot camp, the week before you go to medical, and that's where they give you your colorblind test and all these other tests. And that got rid of a lot of kids. They give you like a real dive physical. And they don't do that just to join with the contract. They do that in boot camp. So these kids had all these high hopes, come to find out you're colorblind or your vision isn't X by X and correctable. So they kind of got duped.
Damn.
Got the physical screener, medical screener before the physical screener in boot camp. And they're like, have fun painting ships, bud.
Damn.
Yeah.
I did not even know that.
My heart rate was super low because I was triathlete.
Yeah.
You know, the Navy's, any big institution is just going to go off of the base numbers. They're not going to make exceptions for you. But the kid running the machine was like, dude, your heart rate's too low. Like, it's coming up as an anomaly because it's not at 60 beats per minute or whatever. I was like 49. Right? So it's a runner. He's like, okay, just do like burpees, do jumping jacks.
We'll get you like 300 milligrams caffeine.
Yeah, he's like, okay, nope, okay, do some more. And then, you know, you got me right. So yeah, that screened a lot of kids out.
That is crazy.
Yeah, I felt bad for, I mean, you know, there's some studs, some smart guys, all jacked and ripped. And they're like, yeah, man, you don't.
Yeah, you're paying ships now. That's crazy. Yeah. Well, so lucky enough, didn't fall into that batch. So when did you find out, you're going to buds and everything, kind of screening when?
So did the screening, my push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, run, swim, nothing super impressive, just higher than average, but I wasn't breaking any records. Did that, and they go, you kind of just get like I'm 18. I don't know how big organizations really work. The biggest organization I was ever a part of was my high school of 2,000 people, right? So you got thumbs up, okay. Go in, fill out some paperwork, and just hope that you don't get lost in the big machine. Then I got your orders. I'm like trying to decipher, okay, graduate, boot camp. Now you're going to Pensacola, Florida for your school. And then at the bottom, it'll say like with buds contract, but like no date, no buds class. So, but it says buds in ink on paper, official document. So like, okay, I have some confidence. Yeah. I would say that point, I said, okay, I'm going, I think.
What's going on, everybody? Wanting to take a quick pause in the action and tell you guys about our brand new Patreon page. For only $3 a month, you guys will get exclusive access to Q&A sessions. That means questions coming directly from you will get asked for the guest and only exclusively released on Patreon. Also, with your subscription, you get access to the exclusive Patreon Discord. Overall, I can't stress enough how big your guys' support is for the continuation of the show. All the money made on this Patreon will be quickly reinvested to continue to get you guys the best guests and the best production value possible. So with that, if you're interested, please check out the link in the description. And with that, let's get back to the episode.
Yeah. How confident did you feel?
To make it through, or to actually that I'm going to actually get orders to go?
That you were going to, when you were going to get to buds, like how confident did you feel in that process? Like knowing that the challenge that was in front of you?
I don't want to sound like a cocky asshole, but yeah, I was ready.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
It's not a cocky thing, because I had Brent Tucker on. He was Delta Force. And he was saying that where, his whole ambition, he was like, I wanted to be the best when I was doing any of these type of workouts, whatever. And he's like, it might sound bad. I'm like, I don't think it does, because if you want to do this type of stuff, you can't be a normal person with your, be like, half in, half out type of deal.
Yeah, you got to be all in.
You got to have a little bit of that cocky swagger to say, I can do this.
Yeah. Well, there's this at the time, and I think it's still the same. There's like an 88% attrition rate. Mm-hmm. I'm like, man, that's a lot. Yeah. Checked into Pensacola, Florida, and I saw all the guys who had passed the screener at boot camp, and they're all working out. And I'm like, you're going to buds? Yeah. I'm like, you too? Yeah. Wait, this whole group is? Yeah. So maybe that's why the attrition rate is so high, because I wasn't impressed.
You're feeling good.
Yeah.
What about coming in at 18 years old? Did you get any, do you know what the average age is for buds in terms of?
Probably 22. I don't know. I was definitely one of, if not the youngest guy there.
I know very few people have done it at 18. Very few. So
I think when people speak on it being hard, because there were some guys in my class that had been before when they were 18 and now they're more mature, but those guys fucking end up quitting in Hell Week too. So like, I think if you're a quitter, you're a quitter. Mm-hmm. Maybe some maturity would have been better, but you're in the military. You can't really be that immature. Like they kind of keep you in line. So I would do it all again the same way, because maybe my maturity wasn't as good as it could be to have a better experience. I will sacrifice that for how young my body was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's get into buds. I guess, what were the first couple, like when you first initially figured out, like this is when your class was starting, this is when everything was going to get the process going, and then the first initial weeks, how did those all go?
I'm in Pensacola, Florida, finished my high school, and I was supposed to class up with like class 2, 4, 5. And I figured out there's a detailer you can call. So I called a bunch of numbers. They said, you can be in 244 if you get to Coronado like tomorrow. I said, yes. The whole reason why I picked the shortest A school was to get to buds as soon as I can. If I can get there even sooner than what's slated now, let's go. So I check in, and the first thing I remember is doing a 4-mile timed run on the beach. And if I had any strong suit in the Buds athletic realm, it'd be running. Mm-hmm. And we take off 2 miles up north, turn around, 2 miles back. And I'm running, and I'm like towards the end of the middle sector of the pack of people. So I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna fail this first evolution. Like maybe I didn't run enough, getting all these weird self-doubts. Come back, finish the run. I ran a great time. I just happened to be in a really fast class. There was kids that were Olympic swimmers. They were professional triathletes for the Navy team. So I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, holy shit, I'm slow. But I was just with a bunch of dudes that were just hauling ass. And I was no longer like the big fish in the little pond, right? Yeah. In my small little community in Northern California, I was like, top 1% athlete. In my Buds class, I was like 50%. It's like, oh shit, yeah. That's when I knew I was in the right place.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Is like, how did that idea feel? Where you kind of realized that, because the people that are trying out at Buds, of course, you might have some of the guys you're highlighting where you're like, hey, should you?
Yeah,
be here?
Exactly.
But you always have the D1 All-Americans, all those guys.
We had Olympic swimmers.
Yeah. How did it feel being surrounded by those type of individuals? And were you able to feed off them a little bit, you think?
Yeah, I think at first I was a little bit intimidated because I'm like, oh my God, I'm slow. And then I'm like, no, these guys are just fucking badasses. They were motivating. I wanted to be around them. Mm-hmm. Right?
So I guess jumping forward, obviously we'll get to the infamous Hell Week, but next couple weeks going forward, was there any other type of struggles or anything? Like, how was Buds for you?
To be very unpopular, I don't think it was that hard. Mm-hmm. You just have to do what they say to do and not quit. And you just work out on the beach, and you'll see people just quitting. To me, I was like, why are you quitting? We haven't even we're on day 2. We haven't done anything. I don't know if that's due to ignorance. People don't know what they were getting themselves into. Or maybe they knew too much. Oh, it's only going to be this hard and that hard. And they had weird expectations. Where me, I'm like, I'm here until they tell me I'm not here anymore. Like, that's it. I'm fucking going.
Yeah.
And that's it. I think being young and ignorant really, really helped me out there.
So, getting into Hell Week, did you even know what Hell Week was?
I knew what Hell Week was.
Okay. You had that.
Hell Week was really fun the first night, and then it just progressively got shittier. Mm-hmm. Because you got the guns and the blanks in the smoke, and I was like, oh, fuck. And there's smoke everywhere, so no one can see you. So I'm like, my push-ups are like, whatever. You can't see me through the smoke. You know what I mean? It was kind of like making sure I don't get lost because you don't mess up the head count, because that's the killer. So I was like, just kind of like, wow, this is fucking cool. And then the sun comes up and you start running, and then you start to feel the aches and the pain. And it was January, and you get in the water. I said, oh, okay, this isn't funny, haha, commando with blank guns anymore. This fucking sucks. Mm-hmm. It sucked, but obviously it wasn't worth me quitting over, so.
How'd you get through it?
I think I just tapped into that same mindset, being an endurance athlete. I think a lot of guys who are PT studs, like fucking jack dudes, and they've never done endurance sports. So they do their football or lacrosse conditioning, and they run a 400 every now and then or do 100 push-ups. They haven't hit that barrier where their body stops because they haven't been pushed that far, because they've been the best at that thing they did. When you do endurance sports, you can be in the best shape of your life. You're going to hit that wall, and you're going to have to go into that space in your head mentally. I think a lot of those guys who didn't go into that space in their head before Buds really crushed them. Me, I lived in that space. I'd go on 12-mile runs in high school for fun. So I was like, okay, I would just naturally go there. It was almost like a meditative state. So tapping into that headspace while going through and having that experience of doing it, I think definitely helped me.
So what advice would you give somebody that's next couple of weeks going into buds, whatever it might be?
Couple of weeks? Give me a couple months.
Give you a couple months. Okay,
well, this is what I tell everyone. Don't do buds before you get there and show up broken. It's like, oh, I'm running 170 miles a week. I'm like, so you want to show up with shin splints. You're going to get them. Don't show up with them. I'm going to take a cold shower. Go ahead. It's stupid. I think doing something that isn't going to break you, but pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, and I call it, going into that room in your mind. When the first time you go in there, it's scary and it's dark, but the more you go in there, you start to hang paintings up in a rug, a little fireplace. So make that space cozy for you, get used to it. So it's not the first time walking in there while you're in Hell Week. You're like, oh, I've been here before. Oh, there's my couch, there's my rug. Okay, I'm comfortable here. Trying to tap into that place in your mind for the first time in that kind of environment, Buds Hell Week, I think you're setting yourself up for failure.
That is really interesting. Cause did you see anybody during Hell Week that, we thought there was an Olympian in the team, in your guys' class? Did you see anybody that you were like, I was sure that guy was going to make it, and he did?
Yeah, and that was kind of out of ignorance too, though, because it was like always the jacked bro. It's like, oh, that guy looks like an action figure. He's for sure going to make it. You just couldn't.
Mm. How did you process that, seeing people that you're like, that guy is not making it? Is there any worry there?
No, it's kind of the opposite, right? It's like the movie Highlander. Every time someone quits, you take their power, right? It makes you that much more special that you're there. Mm-hmm. For every guy who's still there when someone else quits, it makes you that much further away of, being a quitter. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was more of a validation of why you should be there.
So you wrap up Buds. What was it feeling then?
The pipeline, along with all the stuff after Buds, is so long. It's a relief, but it's not. That's right after. But when you graduate Buds, it's like, yeah, we made Buds, but you still have another 8-9 months.
Mm-hmm. You got to go through Q course and everything from
there. We have SEAL qualification training, SQT, then free fall, and then you have to go to Alaska and do the winter warfare training. So it's a long time, and then when you finally get your trident, it's a relief, but it's almost like, about time, right? Yeah. I had one class because I later on in my career became an instructor, and some big ranking officer SEAL came in and was like, "You guys are so lucky. You got your tridents today. It's like you won the lottery." And I looked around and I thought he had left, and I pulled the kids in. I said, "Hey, don't ever let anybody tell you you're lucky. You woke up every day, fucking 4 a.m. or whatever, ran as many miles as you ran, swam. So don't ever fucking let anybody tell you you're lucky. You deserved all of this." And the guy was standing right behind me. But I turned around and he didn't say anything. So
I think everyone kind of deep down knows it's true too. Let me think so going through the rest of all the different qualifications, all the different schools that you had to go to, do you have a particular that kind of stood out as your favorite, or one that you really, really enjoyed?
I think I really enjoyed free fall because we were one of the first classes to have it integrated into the SEAL pipeline.
Really?
So, yes. Before you'd become a SEAL, and it would be like good deals for good SEALs. Whoever would have all the other shitty schools knocked out would get nominated to go to free fall school. It was like, oh man, you got to go to free fall school. I want to go to free fall school. And I didn't take it lightly when someone said, hey, you guys are so lucky this is integrated in your pipeline now. It's not just a onesies and twosies during workup. I said, man, that's pretty badass. And, I'm 20 learning how to skydive.
Yeah, jumping out of
with my rucksack
airplane
and shit at night.
Yeah.
Like, that's fucking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that. So I asked Brent this, and it's always interesting to hear because some people think there is beef, some people isn't, you know what I mean, between Delta and SEALs. Obviously, we'll get to your time in DEVGRU too, but more specifically, I guess Green Beret would be the more one-to-one. How would you compare, and what do you think it makes SEAL training unique to some of the other special forces groups?
So this is me speaking totally out of ignorance because I've never been to any of their training. I would have to say the water. I mean, our training is right on the beach, and you can be as fit as you want, but if they lay you halfway down in the water and the waves come up just up to your chin and back and the wind starts blowing, that's a killer. I would have to say that. I don't know. Because I think everyone has like their own version of like Heck Night or Heck Week or Hell Week. There's a bunch of studs. I know some Army guys will like give you a rucksack and a map. They say go, and you're like, fuck, I don't know where to go. Figure it out, and then you're done. So there's like different hardness, I guess, like difficulty. But I would say having that immediate access to the Pacific Ocean, I think that's it.
Helps a little bit.
Yeah.
So jumping forward, you get assigned to SEAL Team 5. How did you feel about this kind of being your team? Do you think it was the right fit for you?
I was so happy. When you get towards the end of SQT, you can make a wish list. And I'm like, West Coast. Don't care what team. And we got our orders. I said, SEAL Team 5. I said, perfect.
Which team is SEAL Team 5? Or like what's the main area of focus on for 5?
Before my time in the SEAL teams, each team had an area they would specialize in. Like I think SEAL Team 5 was like cold weather and, different regions of the world. And then when the war popped off, you can't just keep having the same team or two teams over in the Middle East. So instead of having specialties, ever since post 9/11, all the teams do all the same thing. It's just a rotation schedule now. Yeah. So the platoon I joined, they had just gotten back from Iraq. So that whole area of specialty for the teams kind of went away, and it just turned into a deployment cycle, rotation, who's up next.
Is there like specific team cultures though? You would
100%.
say still around?
Yeah. I don't know. I think the cultures come and go with the leadership.
Okay.
But when I was at Team 5, it was awesome.
In what way?
It was like if Motley Crue and Hell's Angels made a SEAL team, that's what it was.
So it was a perfect team for you?
It was perfect. Yeah.
Love that.
It was perfect, and there are some lessons learned on like how not to do things, but I think I was 20 when I checked in, and it was like liquid lunch on Wednesday and not go back to work. And with my leadership, I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you think it would have changed if, I don't know, let's say pick whatever SEAL team and maybe they're a little bit more opposite direction. How do you think that would have kind of changed your experience on the team or whatever it might be? I
think I got lucky being at 5 because I'm not one to drink the Kool-Aid, even if it's a little bit. I wear my Raiders hat over my ears, and I dress how I want. And if I go to work and perform, who gives a shit? I don't think I would have ever turned that off to fit in at any team. I would have walked. Yeah.
If that does happen for a guy, let's say, like it, I'm not obviously not familiar with this, but does there tend to be a lot of underlying issues? Like what ends up happening a lot of times if someone doesn't connect well with that team culture? Will they get shifted around, or is it? Yeah,
or you leave. No.
So jumping forward, moving into your first deployment, what was the thought process there? You'd been, a couple of years ago, pretty close to then, you're running cross country in Northern California, and now you're getting deployed.
Yeah.
What was the mindset there?
I think I've always done good at listening to those who've gone before me, and all of my instructors at SQT kept saying, you guys have no idea how good you have it. I've been a SEAL for 20 years. I've done East Coast. I've done West Coast. I went back to the East Coast. Now I'm an instructor on the West Coast, trying to do every conflict I could, but there wasn't. It was like some stuff in Bosnia, Kosovo. A couple guys did a real world hook and climb on a boat. I think someone did a gas oil platform off the coast of Saudi, or I don't know. But like there wasn't like sustained conflict going on where guys were getting it on. And this was like summer of 2005. And like you guys are lucky. And I took that to heart. So I was pretty pumped.
Mm. Where was your first deployment going to? Afghanistan?
Iraq.
I guess going in with the team then, did you want like, how comfortable did you feel with some of the objectives you guys were, because you guys were going in, I mean, it was obviously very hot at the time, you know, you guys are going in busting bad guys right on the street. I mean, how comfortable did you feel going into
It's
that?
something I never even thought about because you're with 16 other dudes with Humvees, with 50 cals on them, with night vision, with suppressors, with lasers, with helicopters. This is going to be a beatdown session, one-sided. Like I was like, fuck it, let's go.
Do you have any specific moments, remember, from that deployment that really stuck out for you?
No, just that Iraq was such a different world.
In what way?
I'd only see the green videos of it being bombed on TV, and you know, you think it's just some shitty country, and then you go there and you're like, man, it's fucking badass, like the Tigris and the Euphrates and these big palaces and the big palm trees. It was pretty surreal. I'm like, wow, it's fucking kind of nice here. But yeah, that's it. Work was work, and I think that is accredited to how realistic our training is. Because our training is way harder than any conflict we've been in overseas.
Really?
100%. Yeah. Because you're role playing, there's role players that are fucking SEALs and they got badass paintball guns and they give you pretty much no-win situations. And then when you go overseas, you know, you expect it to be like that. And you should, right? You should always train to that worst possible scenario. And thankfully for me, it never even got close to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you remember your first combat?
Yeah. Didn't know it was happening. For like the first couple seconds, I was number 2 gunner in a Humvee, and we were either on Route Michigan or Route Irish, I don't recall. And we're driving up, and there was a checkpoint up ahead. It was at night, and I don't think we knew it was there. Like it was like a new pop-up one for some bad guys or like some fake Iraqi police. Mm-hmm. And you know, I have my field of fire to the right, and the Humvee in front of me is holding straight. And then it's pop, pop, boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, really? We're doing a contact front vehicle IAD drill right now? It sounded just like the flashbangs we did during our mobility package and workup. It just sounded the exact same. And I was like, oh shit, and the calls are coming on the radio, like contact front, back left. I was like, oh fuck, it's happening. And I was like, man, maybe our training's too real. Because I'm like, oh, here we go. I'm like, oh, we're in Iraq. Shit.
This is the real deal.
This is a real deal. Yeah, it could totally cut me off guard. I was so like disappointed in myself. Like, fuck, man, that was happening. And I'm like, I don't know.
So under fire, I mean, there's a lot of ways people can react. How did you know, once contact's made and everything's going down there, I mean, how?
I think initially you kind of have to stop because you don't know. You want to know what's going on. You want to know where it's coming from, how big that force is, like what you need to do. There's really no time for emotion, right? It's more like, what do I need to do next?
Mm-hmm. And then, you know, once everything wraps up and you guys return to base, did you take a bit to process that, or did it almost just kind of feel right? Like, what was the feeling?
It was kind of like if your buddy gets called to the principal office in school. It's kind of like that. Oh shit, that was crazy, and that was it. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, oh man, that was wild. Were you up there? Did you get to shoot? Oh, how was it? Did you get him? Oh, I think so. Like, oh fuck yeah, bro. High five.
Love that. Well, did you have a moment that you would say on either first or second deployment where stuff felt like it got real, where it was just kind of like,
I still think to this day, I have yet to feel that anything's quite that real. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I have a mental disposition where I kind of think everything is a movie.
Do you think that helps if you're trying to get into, any type of position?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It works for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that. So I guess going into the second deployment, I mean, same type of deal as well, right? Or were you guys?
No, I was in the Philippines for that deployment.
You were in the Philippines.
Yeah.
What were you guys doing down there that you have to speak to?
At the time, I spoke Tagalog, so I took a language course. I think they've now changed that to be called Filipino. It used to be called Tagalog, the national language, but there's 400 dialects, so it depends on where you go. And I was out what we call an outstation, somewhere kind of away from our main headquarters on a little island. And at that time, the Filipino Marines were trying to broker deals with the Abu Sayyaf group and the MNLF group, the terrorist extremists in the region. And I was pretty much gathering intel on that and how that was going down, as well as training the Filipino SEALs and the Filipino Marines.
Did you guys see any combat down there, or was it pretty baseline, just kind of training?
Kind of training, some close calls. I'm pretty sure some of our actions we did led to number 5 on FBI's list being neutralized indefinitely. So that was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I guess jumping in, when did SEAL Team 6 start to pop on the radar?
SEAL Team 6 popped on the radar because my best friend said he's screening for this thing. I had no idea what it was. And we did everything together. We were roommates. I said, I'll do it. It's okay. And I went up to the Master Chief's office because you need to fill out a packet. And the Master Chief was very surprised to see me because he said, I was actually coming to see you. And I said, for what? I wanted you to fill out this packet. I'm like, I'm actually looking for that packet. He's like, well, I want you to do this. I said, okay, good. Fill out the packet. I still don't know what SEAL Team 6 really is or what's different. I just knew it was on the East Coast, and I didn't want to go to the East Coast. Mm-hmm. And we were doing like cool stuff on the West Coast. Like, why would I leave San Diego to go live on the East Coast? And it sounds like it's still cool stuff, but I'm already doing cool stuff. But whatever, my friend said he's going to do it. Okay, so I filled out the packet. This is how it was ran when I went through the process. A cadre of people fly out from the East Coast and put on the screener. Run, swim, push up, pull up, sit up. And then it's like a 3-day interview process. You do the written California psychiatric exam and then the national one, and then you sit down with the psych, and then you sit down with a board of super senior enlisted guys, and they ask, why do you think you would make it? Or, all these questions. So I go through the screening process, kind of ignorant, just, being me. And I was one of 2 guys that got told immediately after, yeah, you got picked up. So, okay. Screen positive, did my Philippine deployment. And a month after I got back from that, I went out to Virginia to start the screening process, the 6-month-long screening process.
So before getting there, what are the qualifications, or what are they looking for to be can anybody that's in the SEAL team that has 2 deployments put their name in the hat, or is it you kind of have to be requested?
I think it's team dependent. I think the baseline now is you need to have a really strong recommendation from the command master chief. If you're a turd and you're like, oh, I'm going to put my name in the hat, and your command is like, no, you're not going to embarrass us and yourself. Get the fuck out of there. I think you kind of need that push from your senior leadership, yeah, go ahead. But I'm not totally sure. And that was it. So, yeah, you have to have some experience under your belt. And from what I saw, a recommendation-ish from your master chief at your team. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you put all the process through, and then you guys go to the Philippines. Were you kind of starting to get some insight into maybe what you just signed you up for from your teammates or anything?
Dude, I was living in the middle of the jungle. Like,
So
I was just living that jungle life, man. Just hanging out.
yeah. So when did you realize what SEAL Team 6 was?
After the first 2 weeks of being there.
Okay. Yeah. I like that. So what was the screening process like? How did that go once you start going down to Virginia Beach there?
So I'll tell you what I can.
Yeah.
It's pretty much, and this is a very common explanation, it's what you think the SEAL teams was going to be when you first came in. Mm-hmm. It's this machine that moves really fast with the best support and the best people and the best funding that you can imagine. But their only requirement of you is to keep up. Where in this white side, regular SEAL teams, you do your cyclical pro dev, go to schools, work with your team, deploy. You do that every time. So every next workup, you're bringing new guys in. New, just graduated. So you can only advance so much. When you go where I went in Virginia, there is no new guys. So they can push the throttle full max as far as tactics and training. And if you don't keep up, you just get sent back to the SEAL teams. So there's no waiting up for anybody. And what I like to say is, if you're on Wednesday and you make a Tuesday mistake, you're gone. You can make a Wednesday mistake on Wednesday, but you can't make that mistake tomorrow when it's Thursday. Right? So the pace is just doom. That's it. Yeah.
So you're kind of saying like buds maybe not necessarily met your expectations in terms of you're able to get through like pretty well. Mm-hmm. Would you say this process now that you know?
Yeah, that 6 months in Bob Beach, that was on my toes. Really, a lot of it's mental, right? They're tasking you with procedures, and the next day they're telling you when you can break them and why, and then to implement it, and then they give you the scenario, and you're like, "Fuck!" Like you just said this yesterday. So, yeah, it was like hard. You did some like monster mashes on Friday, like some beatdown session workouts, whatever. You're a SEAL, right? Okay, well, let's do it. But the rate at which you needed to learn new information and display it and retain it was something like I couldn't even imagine. Mm-hmm. It was legit. I was like, fuck.
What type of person do you think DEVGRU is looking for?
Smart.
In what way?
Critical thinking. Mm-hmm. Regular, like fucking textbook smart, street smart, critical thinking, thinking outside the box. I think they're looking for more of this than anything. 100%.
So basically they're looking for the stuff that they can't necessarily teach you. It's for the stuff that's kind of naturally given.
Or gained through life.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
When did you realize that you had that?
I don't know, maybe when I graduated Green Team.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of that, so you get through a lot of the assessments and stuff. Again, this is obviously some of the most difficult stuff that you can even be able to get through. And then you move into Green Team. Obviously, there's levels that you can speak to it. But again, what were your expectations going into that, and how did they meet them?
No expectation. I'm here, task me, tell me what to do, and I'll do it. And I think that mindset is what made things, I would say, easier to digest or not as hard for me because I had no expectations. I didn't even know what the fuck I was getting myself into, right? Go run, okay. We're gonna do room clearance. Cool, I love room clearance. I'm gonna do this now. Oh, I've never seen that before. Cool, that makes sense. So I was just there. It was just like more advanced schooling in the way of the SEAL, I guess, right? So I was like, let's do it.
Did you realize, though, that you were kind of surrounded by the top of the top as well?
Oh, yeah. At SEAL Team 5, I was a really good shot. I was on the entry team back when that was a thing, like the first 4 guys that go into a room. I was really good in doing room clearance. My shooting times are always like top of the leaderboard. And then you get to green team and you're like, those are all these guys. Everybody's that guy. Like, fuck, you know? And the competition is good, right? Okay, now I need to step it up. And yeah, definitely saw it there for sure.
I guess we kind of glossed over this. Can you explain what green team was? We kind of just went past
Yeah,
that,
it's just a 6-month selection that you have to get through to get orders to SEAL Team 6.
Mm-hmm. And they're testing, I mean, like a number of different abilities, but basically if you would be able to be at that level.
It's anything that SEALs do, just pushing and learning more in the tactics and how we could or couldn't do something, like doing things with theory and not worrying about leaving guys behind, because we'll leave you behind and you'll just get orders back. Like it's just progression without any hindrance. And if there is hindrance, they take that hindrance and they put them on a plane and they send them back to whatever team he came from.
So similar question that I had with Buds originally. Was there guys that you could have sworn when you're going through this that guy's making it through?
No, because that selection process is so crazy. You can have one bad day. You can have one bad day and mess up something that's like, you're gone. Mm-hmm. It's like that. It's like, fuck, like that totally could have been me. 100%. A guy got snagged on the doorway with his kit. And we come through on fire, finger on, right? We clear our corners. He got snagged on the doorway. And our doorways have been breached and have nails and all kinds of shit hanging on. Got snagged on the doorway. It stopped his body. The momentum of his gun kept going forward, and he snapped a round off into the corner. Like something wild, bizarre stuff. Well, he had an accidental discharge. Boop, you're gone. So like you can just have one bad day and be gone. So it was really hard.
Damn.
And like it's 6 months and you can't have one bad day. If you do, you're gone. Yeah.
Damn. I know, like I said, having Brent on, he was saying, Delta didn't really tell you the standards. Are they letting you guys know at that point, or is there a lot of stuff that's like you don't even know what you're being tested on, but you know you're being tested?
I think Delta is more
mind game type.
Mind game, like here's a map, go, and you like, here's your point. You're like, how long do I have? And they just say go, and like, fuck. The green team screening, there was really no standards. It was like, do this, 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 and if you don't do it, you're out. There was nothing cut and dry. Really, I mean, there's cut and dry, like don't point your gun at your buddy and don't, shoot into the wall for no reason. But it could. One of the first weeks we were out at one of their first big trips, we all just sat outside. They just read a list of names. Doop, 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 doop. Meet over across the street at this house. The rest of us went to the range, came back, and they were all gone. We don't know why. We don't know what they did wrong. It was just, they must have done something wrong. But you don't get told what it is because they're screening you. So you're just like, okay, am I still here? Or the names you called the ones staying? Like, you don't know.
Wow. Why do you think, comparing it to Delta, why do you think that they have that style of approach?
I don't know. Maybe the physical and the mind game stuff kind of already happens in buds. So they're like, well, you got that. I'm not saying a bud student will crush the Q course. I don't know. I'm saying I think that's why at Green Team, they just screen on like your mental aptitude and getting stuff done and giving you all these new procedures and taking them away, then bringing them back and teaching you how to break the rules and when to and when not to, because they know you can suffer. They know you don't know when it's going to end. You don't know when surf torture is going to end. So I think SEALs, before they even get to Green Team, have displayed enough of that mind game, physical beatdown stuff. So like, okay, let's just move on.
Mm-hmm. And you knew it was going to be 6 months.
You know it's 6 months, correct.
You know it's 6 months. So when you're in that last day, and you're pretty sure you're getting through at this point, how did that feel?
Good. It's so long and you're like, yeah, it's about fucking time, right? So you have this weird, like, we did it, but it wasn't, hitting the lottery. You wake up and you're instant, like, you ask someone who did everything perfect for so long. It's like, yeah, give me my fucking trophy or whatever it is, right? Like, I mean, it's nice to be done, but it's like, okay, that's another screening process down. My other friends back who didn't screen, they're already on their second deployment going, or third, right? It's like, wow. So you graduate, you get drafted to a squadron.
I was gonna say, can you explain the drafting process? Because I know that's.
I mean, I never took part in the drafting process thereafter, but I think within the squadrons, they'll look at the class and be like, oh, this guy is a lead breacher and we just lost ours to, you know, he had to go take orders somewhere else. So I think they kind of like pick and then, you know, see if it's a good personality fit. So they kind of pick who's who or who's going to help them the most and fill gaps that they have any. And you get drafted. And once you check into that team, you're on a year probation. So you have to be perfect again for 365 days.
Oh, shit. Really?
Yeah. Just like scrutiny of perfection, nonstop.
Are you able to speak to the team that you ended up getting drafted to? I don't know if that's.
No, I'm trying to think if I've either spoken or written about it before, but I'm going to say no.
Okay, fair enough. I know there's just so much difference with that. Well, so you finally get to check in your, you know, first couple weeks, and you were saying this is kind of when it started to hit you, like, you know, this is maybe what tier one's looking like. So when did that hit, and what were you thinking in that moment, I guess?
Well, from just the physical building and the training sites within the compounds, like, holy shit. And then everyone's shooting so hard. Everyone's so good in the house. And then I think the icing on the cake was I was told to go to supply with a list for my team. And I went to supply and I'm like, this is like REI times a billion with all the Gucci sexiest shit and no questions asked. I need 10 of these. They're like, here you go, here. I'm like, what? And in the SEAL teams, you're always trying to get sexier gear. You're always pulling teeth with the command, hey, can we get these purchased? Well, I don't know, and funding. Then you go to Va Beach, and I went and supply there. I'm like, this is crazy. Yeah.
So no questions asked.
No
It's
questions
like,
asked.
You get what you want.
I need 10 Sunto watches, sure. We're like, back at Team 5, you know, my $50 Casio G-Shock would break, and they're like, well, I don't know. And the supply guy behind the desk, who's not even a SEAL, he's got a brand new one on. I'm like, bro, come on, man. Come on, dog. I'm actually going to go dive with this thing. We don't have any left. You know, I'm like, give me that fucking watch.
So what was the culture of the guys around you, and like how did it separate from SEAL Team 5?
I think that's a hard thing to pin down. The guys around me were all rock star operators. So, I mean, everyone's an operator. I was younger. I was super fucking young, actually, at
How old were
6.
you?
I was 23 when I checked in.
You were 23.
Yeah. My team leader had a daughter my age. It was wild.
That's dangerous. But.
No. I was like, nope, not even.
Yeah.
You don't even exist. So everyone's like, who is this young fucking guy?
I didn't even realize you were going through at that time.
Yeah.
How did that play into it again? I mean, the good, the bad. Like,
I mean, you know, I was young and I was confident, and guys were like, like some of the old timers, like,
yeah.
some of the guys loved it. Like, fuck yeah, it's badass. Like, look at his, you know, charts from Green Team. He crushed it. Okay, well, we'll feel him out. Yeah, I'd say that age and not having as much maturity at 6, I felt way more than going through buds at 18. Right. But it was good. All the guys in my team were super professional, like super tight. And me, I was like, did my job, going home, bye. And when you're on, you know, that team, you belong to that team. Mm-hmm. Like 23 and a half hours a day.
So what would you say separates tier 2 to tier 1?
Just my personal opinion?
Yeah.
I think aptitude, the ability to learn and display that new skill and understand why, the methodology and the philosophy behind why you would do that and why you wouldn't, not just monkey see, monkey do. This guy goes that way, I go that way, but knowing everything behind it, I think that is the mindset of the person that makes it through. Mm-hmm. Yeah, physical, sure, tall, short, skinny, fit, got them all.
So again, so the first couple weeks, what were some of the items that made you really start recognizing what SEAL Team 6 kind of was in terms of the team historically, et cetera?
Right when I first got there, they were like, go pack your bags for this. And I'm like, what is that? And they go, just grab this, put it in. Like, we're going to have to go out and blow out of the country and go do this thing. And I was like, really? And they're like, yeah, motherfucker. And like, went and packed my bags. And 3 days later, we're on a plane going somewhere to do something. And I was like, oh shit. Like, this is like the movies.
Yeah.
That's when I knew. I was like, oh, this is the big leagues for sure.
So you started operating right away. Like, did that even during that probation period, you're still in and out? Did you? I know there's a massive step up in terms of like, if you're going to go after a high value target is, when you're SEAL Team 5, the high value target you're now going after, SEAL Team 6 is, it's up there. I mean, did you, when you were doing that step up, is that kind of when you were also realizing like, man, we're operating at the tip of the spear?
No, because even when I was at Team 5, I didn't give a fuck who we were going after. I wasn't in the jock or the talk like, hey, this is so-and-so bad guy. I'm like, I'm the number one man. I'm going in the house. I'm going to do what I got to do. Like, I don't fucking care. Because to me, it's irrelevant. I don't care. I'm not
taking care of business.
I'm not doing the battle space, and I don't care about the like political ramifications or the geopolitical impact it's going to have with different tribe leaders or whoever. I don't give a shit. It wasn't my job. Let me focus on making sure my gear's tight, making sure my room entry's good, and making sure my actions on and off target are good. That's it. I didn't care about any of that.
Was it the same in SEAL Team 6?
I tried to, and then they're like, no, you need to fucking write this shit down and not just be a dum-dum. You need to evolve. And I said, and I was like, it's like, and then I was like, I'll remember it. They're like, hey, no, motherfucker. Like, here's a notebook. Here's a pen. Like, fucking grow up. I don't want to. I just want to shoot the guys. And they go, no. So there's a little bit of growing pains for me there, for sure.
How did it feel, again, like having to kind of really put yourself in those shoes? And not to say the first time, but like the first time of maybe being deliberate in the approach of like really understanding kind of the significance of a lot of these missions. I mean, did that change anything, or how did you?
Yeah, I started to have more respect for the battlefield and the missions we were doing.
Mm-hmm. In what way would you say?
We went out. We were going to go plan to do a joint operation with the Rangers. It was the middle of the day. We usually sleep until the sun's down. We got woken up at like noon local time, like all vampires and shit. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? Pack your shit. We're going to go up to this base and plan. Number 5 on the list is like here. Oh shit, let's go. We grab all of our shit, baseball hats, gear in the bag, fucking on the helos. And it's like an hour and a half transit. We're like in the helos, and all of a sudden the helos just start hauling ass. What's going on? Well, what happened was whoever was in charge of the Rangers found out we were going to come help plan and do a hit at night. They said, we don't need them. We can do it ourselves. They went out in the daytime. Shitstorm. They had no air assets. My team leader's radio went down, so I gave him mine. And everyone's like, I'm like, what the fuck's going on? They're like, we're going to do a VI, vehicle interdiction. I said, okay. We're going to land on the X. And so we land on the X, take some browns, return some shots, and then we pull out 2 Army guys on stretchers. One guy's expectant, his head's wrapped, he's done. And another guy's forearms off here, he's wrapped up. Another guy took frag in his back, and he's like all bleeding, but he's coming up with us. And we're like, fuck, dude. Lift off, take them back to their base. They didn't tell anyone they were going. There's no medevac, like nothing set up. There's just Afghani guy that like delivers juice boxes in a little fucking truck. Say, hey, we need your truck. Throw people in there and then drive them to the base hospital. And I was like, man, what the fuck? Like, what's going on? And like, that was at my level. So I couldn't imagine my head shit. Like, dude, what are these guys doing? And we sat on the tarmac waiting, calling the officer in charge of that Ranger team, group, battalion, whatever they're called, on the ground saying, hey, you got the boys here. Let us come. And the guy's like, I don't have a clear space of the battlefield. I don't know where my guys are. It's a fucking mess. And finally, when they got some A-10s up, I think, and they got out of there, but they lost a couple guys. I'm like, man, whoa. And number 5 got away. The guy got away and went back to Pakistan. And I was like, fuck. That's when I really realized, like, hey, targets can be dangerous. Shit can go wrong. These targets are important. It's strategic on how we go about it. I was just so sheltered in the bubble of like how the group I was with at Team 5 and how the group I was with at SEAL Team 6 did business. I never even had to think about that until I saw what happens when you don't. And I was like, fuck, this is a big deal. This shit is important. Mm-hmm. And I think after that, I was like, okay, time to pay attention.
It's an interesting question that comes with that too, is when you step up, you're this tier 1 team. And again, there's only so many of them and you guys, there's only so many of you. Did you find there was respect and admiration, but also this level of competitiveness from maybe some of the tier 2? I mean, the Ranger example being that they know you guys are coming in. They say, fuck it, we can do it. Like we don't need, a weird mix of that?
No, I've only ever seen it one way. I've always been kind and nice to the boys because I don't forget where I came from. I had a great time SEAL Team 5. I think the SEAL teams are fantastic. We did great work there. But I've come across numerous people that, oh, you think this about me because you're from that command. I'm like, no, not at all, man. So I don't know how it got started. Maybe like one SEAL Team 6 guy was an asshole a long time ago, and like that's what everyone held on to. But I've never dealt with it. And it blew my mind that mission had happened. Like, oh, we can do it. Because we're a team. We're all a fucking team. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm nothing unless I have a helicopter pilot to fly me to the place. I'm not going to walk 150 kilometers to go hit a dude.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, I've never had it. I support everybody and anybody, but I have seen it the other way with a stigma like, oh, you think you're better than us. I'm like, at what, right? You want to, let's be logical. Like, you want to test each other? Or do you just mean like in general, like some weird hater thing? Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't think about you.
That's what I was going to ask. So, yeah. So you saw that just...
I saw it one way, but it was few and far between.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you also feel like there was a level of respect given? Like, would that shift from... Obviously, you guys aren't probably operating with, I don't know, pick kind of just base level groups or whatever it might be. But, if you guys were coming across people... there's always the idea of, like, you see a SEAL Team 6 guy, it's like, damn, like that's SEAL Team 6 guy. Like, did you feel that as well when you guys were operating around, or maybe even just in the bases,
Yeah, yes and no. Our bases, we would have a base within a base, and it was like no one would even think like, oh, there's that base covered in tarps, like we can't see in. And the guys we worked with that were in the Army a lot, they're kind of on like the similar rotation. They've been around for each other, so everyone kind of knew each other. And when referencing back to that mission that the Army guys went on during the daytime, the kids didn't feel that way. It was their leadership that pushed them out. It's like they knew it was all fucked up. Mm-hmm. I think there is maybe some reverence, like, oh, like when I was a White Side SEAL, I didn't know. But if I would have known, I'm like, oh, that's badass. Like, you're a really good operator. That's why you're at SEAL Team 6. So I think people who know, I think there might be a level of respect for sure. But I've seen it pretty harmonious with anybody I've ever worked with. 100%.
So you guys are obviously hitting some high value fucking targets. Joy isn't the right word, but Did you get a level of achievement that maybe you hadn't gotten previously with some of these operations? Did you feel like, how did you feel coming home from a lot of these?
If we hit a good target and there, we had to, like neutralize a bunch of dudes or fucking like shoot, move, and communicate and do all the shit. Like, it was cool. It was fun. I'm just happy no one got hurt. None of us got hurt. But I liked every night we went out, man. Because then we go out on fucking dirt bikes or the side-by-sides or like walk around. You're with your boys, walking the fucking mountains. Like I would, even if it's a dry hole, I'd rather do that than, work at a desk. So it was fucking great, right? Like, who am I to complain? This is awesome.
Did you realize the significance of some of these targets, though, in terms of like, again, like this is kind of the first time you're maybe looking at like the greater political ramifications?
I did. And I started to spend more time like in the planning cycle and checking stuff out. But at the same time, I didn't want that to, I wanted that to be like a secondary focus. So I just paid attention. I just actually paid attention, but I still wanted to be a good operator. I can just really focus on that.
So I guess looking at the general, and of course speak to this to the level you can, the pace of changing from SEAL Team 5 to SEAL Team 6, you're still operating in country, whatever. Was there any shockers in terms of like technology or any items that you guys were able to utilize that you just maybe hadn't been able to see before?
The speed at which ideas are deployed and turned into reality is insane. Mm-hmm. Hey, it'd be cool if we had this thing that goes like this, but I wanted to do that. Okay, yeah, do. A couple months later, here's a prototype. Like, fuck. So, I mean, that was really cool to see.
No shit. Yeah. So would this be with just
anything? I want the EOTechs to have different batteries and let's mount them sideways. 2 months later, EOTech's like, try this out. Boom, perfect. Like it was like everyone supported you and everyone had your back. And it was like, what do you want? Okay, let's build a team to make that. How much is it going to cost? Okay, cut them a check, go. And just the rotation was fast. So everything was just so fast, from work cycle to getting ideas deployed into reality, everything. It was just boom, 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 boom. It was almost almost overwhelming.
Speaking of intelligence as well, obviously, and from what people know at some level, there is one of the groups for SEAL Team 6 is focused on intelligence gathering. Did you notice like a massive difference in that as well?
I never was exposed to that. Like I said, I was just paying more attention to my targets. I didn't get to that next level of how that target package got put together. Mm-hmm. It was more like, okay, what's this guy's name? What role does he play in the village he's in? Who's his successor? What is he known for? Why did he do what he did? I never got into how we got that target. And that would be, I think, that group of people you're talking about.
So, and even less so with the communication of them, but more so it's like, if, you guys are getting out the sheet that's saying like, this is who we're going after type of deal. Like, would you feel like SEAL Team 5, it says like, hey, this is what his daily life patterns are. And like, this kind of and then SEAL Team 6 is like, this is what this guy eats for fucking breakfast every day, like type of deal.
So you see the movies that are like, the guy is like running in a building, like next left, turn this way, and it's second door, and there's like this super live feed satellite that can see through buildings, and there's like zero latency, and that person's in DC, and this person's in fucking Romania, and you're like, yeah, sure, bullshit. No, but it was cool because they did have some next level stuff, which I won't go into, but we never get outdated target maps. One time at SEAL Team 5, target map was this field with a building in the middle. A huge field. One building. We land, completely developed. There's hundreds of buildings. And we couldn't tell which one it was from the satellite imagery. So like we all went through all of our breaching charges.
You guys just started breaching buildings, just trying to...
Where we thought, like, we're okay, it's in this 10 by 10 of houses, let's breach these. go until we find
Holy
but like shit like that would never happen, right? We have like dedicated
Yeah.
people who just like get us the real up to date everything. Yeah.
So that actually brings up an interesting point. I mean, there's been, plenty of movies and this and that. And I mean, there's a TV show now and like, there's all this stuff. What do you think is the biggest misconception for people of what SEAL Team 6 actually is?
Well, first I have to know what they think of it.
It's a fair point.
I think the biggest misconception is that they're a bunch of tough, mean, badass dudes. They are, but a lot of guys have families. Yeah, a lot of guys are girl dads. Like they're still people too, and I think that's where it gets lost. And I'll meet people and they're like, "Oh, you're SEAL?" Yeah, like you don't seem like one. I'm like, okay, sure. Like,
How many have you fucking met?
Yeah, like sure, whatever you say, bud. So yeah, I think that's the biggest misconception is that they think it's all the time, and it's really even not like that when you're with your boys. It's like, all right, man, when you guys do the thing. All right, let me know when you're done. Cool. A little bit more of a laid back attitude than you would think. Like, holy shit, like you're chill. I'm like, yeah, man. Like, what's there not to be chill about? I think that's the biggest misconception.
So looking to wrap up, actually, this is something that I should circle back to. SEER school. What was your
SEER school?
Yeah.
So I've been to a couple. So I'll talk about the first one because that was the most memorable. So SEER school is kind of almost part of the BUDS pipeline now. Like once you check in as a brand new guy to whatever SEAL team you got orders to, you can't not deploy until you've been to SEER school. So the team's like, all right, you fucking new guys, go to SEER school. And it's usually a bunch of pilots and some SEALs, some recent brand new baby SEALs. So we got there and it was like cold again. I kept like my timing in my SEAL career was like fucked up. It was like February. Like, God damn. So we go to SEER school and it's frustrating because you have like these fleet Navy people trying to tell me about land navigation. And I just got through BUDS. I'm like, bro, shut up. And they teach you like how to eat a prickly pear cactus and how to kill the rabbit, and then you do all the stuff. And so you do like a fake hide from the enemy at night, but you have to get caught, and then you just sit there and you do your resistance techniques, and they slap you around and ask you the questions, and you have to do the stuff you were taught in the classroom the week before. That was it. Again, I was kind of like this, like the whole time I never got out of this administrative mindset. I'm like, who is this fucking clown? This accent's horrible. Like, teach these guys, like send them to acting school.
Yeah, let's get a real deal.
Yeah, I'm like, come on. And so I wasn't like immersed in it. I mean, it sucked being slapped around.
Yeah.
But, well, worse, they actually like poured cold water on us. And I remember it started shaking before even water got to me because my body just knew.
Yeah,
it's coming.
It's like the half hypothermia type.
I mean, it was good. It was good to know what you have to say, or what you can't say and what you can say, like per letter of the law in the military. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
For DEVGRU, you guys have your own version, correct?
I think other units will send you to other SEER schools. I wouldn't know if you call them advanced or not, just other. And you go over a couple more different techniques and trades there.
Do you think it was like similar to comparing like green team to BUDS, where it's like, damn, it was different. It was, yeah.
But it had to be built off of you having to been to one already, a more basic one.
Okay. So I guess wrapping up, I mean, is there anything specific that stood out from your time at SEAL Team 6? I mean, other than stuff that we kind of went over, to the level you can talk about.
No, it's just the dudes are awesome. Mm-hmm. That's it. It's amazing.
Wrapping up military then, 'cause not necessarily important, but later, but just adds to the story. Where did the nickname Dirty come from?
So when I was at Team 5, I was new, didn't have a nickname, and I didn't know how important those were at the time. Didn't care. So I think I'm 20. I'm young. We go to the strip club for lunch. That's the kind of platoon I was in, right? And
They have the best burgers sometimes.
yeah, best music, and no one tries to fight you.
Yeah.
That's what I liked about it. So I'm sitting there, and I get tasked with the impossible task, like go get me a pitcher of Jack and Coke. I said, hey, can I get a pitcher of Jack and Coke? They're like, no, you can't get a pitcher of Jack. I'm like, can I get bottle service? They go, yeah, I can get bottle service with Jack Daniels bottle and a bunch of little Coke. Yeah. Okay, can I have that pitcher? Sure. Ding, right? Hey, new guy, mission accomplished. So we're sitting there, and I'm like, fuck, dude, these guys are getting rowdy, and they're all way bigger than me. And it's like 2 PM. And I was a young single guy, so I started flirting with this dancer, and she's like, honey, how old are you? I'm like, I had to say 21 because I was in the bar. 21, she's like, I'm too nasty for you. You can handle me. And I said, I'm dirty. Like, you're not going to scare me with being nasty. What's up? Let's do this. And then one of the drunk old guys, my platoon, was like, that you are dirty. And I was like, fuck, that's going to suck. Right? So ever since then, it stuck. That was it. And it just dirty from then on.
That's a hell of a way to get a nickname, man.
Yeah, everyone's like, do you not take showers or this? I'm like, no, it's not even it. Someone overheard me flirting with a stripper.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all that happened.
You kind of have to explain the story every time too. 'Cause yeah, man. We'll love that. We'll take one more break here, and then we'll start jumping into. So jumping back in here, after your time wrapped up with the SEAL team and everything, you started looking for more opportunities outside. I know SEAL Team 17, you were working with that. Can you explain? Like, most people don't really know that there is SEAL Team 17 and teams like that. So can you maybe explain what that was?
Yeah. I didn't know what it was for a long time. Me and some of the guys at SEAL Team 6 were actually on a training trip in Arizona one time, and we saw this guy at a bar wearing a SEAL shirt, and it said SEAL Team 17. And we're like, what's this fake ass shit? And we're all mean mugging him, and you can tell if another guy's a team guy, and we're all mean mugging him, like, what the fuck, 17? And he buys a table, a round of shots, and comes over. He's like, hey, I saw you guys looking. I'm sure you guys are team guys. Like, yeah. This is actually the reserve SEAL team on the West Coast, and there's SEAL Team 18 on the East Coast. And we're like, everyone's like pulling out the phones, like Googling and like calling friends. We're like, oh shit, hey, what's up, man? Have a drink with us. So yeah, I didn't even know what it was. So I left the command. I left SEAL Team 6, came back to teach room clearing or CQC at a SEAL qualification training. And due to a re-enlistment oversight, I wasn't due for a pretty big bonus. So I was like, fuck it, I'm out of here. And I went and rode container ships doing anti-piracy security, which is fucking boring and lonely.
Most people wouldn't expect that too. They'd think it.
You would think, and everyone's like, dude, I've never seen a fucking pirate. Like,
Yeah.
damn it. Like, really? Like, yeah, dude. And you just sit out there and you look, in every direction on the bridge wing, and it's just ocean forever. I mean, obviously you're in the fucking ocean, but it's like, man, this sucks.
It's pretty
really
hot
boring.
too. It's like in the hottest part of the world.
So I'm like, so I did that, and I left the Navy, and I was like, wonder what the guys at SEAL Team 17 are doing. Mm-hmm. Made some phone calls, joined back into that. So SEAL Team 17 and SEAL Team 18 are both active reserve SEAL teams. You have to have been an active duty SEAL, and then you can transfer over there when you get out of active duty.
So we'll get to the pirate stuff in a second. I have a question with that, but to top it off, or to start it off here, what is a mercenary?
A mercenary is someone who does things for money, a professional soldier, right? So you're not really fighting for a flag or an ideal or a country, you're fighting for money. I think by definition, that's what a mercenary is.
What would you say personally for you? Maybe some of the stuff that definition might not necessarily cover.
I don't know, like a 1099 Navy SEAL. Like just, I just file my taxes differently. Freelance.
So what do you think Hollywood gets wrong about mercenaries? You had an interesting expose in the book kind of about this, but
Yeah, they have this. I mean, I'll speak to the personalities because I don't think this is common personality, but who am I to know? They have this death wish guy, or like the guy's wife and kid were killed in a car accident. He has nothing to live for, and he's like addicted to it, or, you know, all this like very romanticized, silent, brooding figure. And me, it was just a job and it paid well. They also get a lot of things wrong where if you're really doing something standalone, not a trip, like non-sponsored by a big entity, you're not going to fly into a country and remove a false panel in your briefcase and there be ricin and anthrax and a pistol and a suppressor. Like, that's not how it works. You get wrapped up in customs, or whoever was trying to get that to you, and then it starts building trails back to someone sponsoring this action, and then there's a big fucking problem. Just stuff like that. More of the logistics behind it. That and the way that character is always portrayed.
had you had an opportunity, your time with, you know, both the SEAL teams and everything, did you run across any Blackwater guys or any, like, did you start seeing the rise there?
Oh yeah. They were all over the place in Iraq at 05. And you could see them a mile away. I think, I mean, obviously Eric Prince is a genius when it comes to private militaries. But when I saw the guys there, I think it was right before everything went really crazy at Blackwater. Guys were rolling around with body armor and no shirts, all jacked with mohawks. And I was like, whoa, like that's when it became its own weird like subculture. I thought the idea of private military was really cool. I had met some guys that were ex-SEALs in Iraq and like, dude, we're getting paid this much a day. If you want to get out, it's good money. And I'm like, fuck, man, that's fucking cool. So it was always like appealing, and it was kind of in the back of my mind. So I saw some of those guys in Iraq 05.
Would you guys ever cross paths or like operate with them at all? Or was it just kind of, you saw them and it's like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah, we saw them rolling around.
What do you think about the rise of private contract military, especially recently?
I think it's a great tool that the government has, right? It's like, hey, this isn't a conflict that we can send troops to, but we have an interest there. Private company. Fill the gap.
Do you think, because we've seen it expand and there's obviously been controversy. I mean, Blackwater is a great example, obviously, but in general, there's controversy around it. Do you think that we're going to continue to see it escalate and it's going to become more and more of a pivotal part of a lot of these governments?
I think due to the nature of how war is progressing, I don't think the sending 30 dudes with the guns and the drones and the aircraft and just going and stopping targets for months on end, I think that kind of warfare is going away. And I think it's more going to be onesies and twosies and little secret things going on here and there. But I think the need for private military, independent contractor, mercenary, or whatever you want to call it, is still going to be there to have a footprint in some areas of interest that aren't quite demanding of a military presence.
What do you think about their use in places like Ukraine?
I think it's a great way to be not directly involved, but say you're helping. Right? I don't know. I don't know how they're being used and for what purpose. But if I was in a position of power and I needed to appease a lot of people at once, but didn't want to actively deploy a military unit, you can say you're helping one side by giving them private military guys, but not piss off their adversaries because you didn't send an actual military unit. So I think it's a tool that is used to stay in that gray area and kind of make everybody happy.
And do you think it's a really good tool because, I mean, it gives a lot of opportunity. You spoke about this as well. A lot of times when people are leaving the military, the transition, like there's a number of angles you can go, but a lot of times you don't want to just be working at a desk at JP Morgan. Say, let's do some finance or something,
Yeah.
you know?
I think it's a tool, but it's a really big crutch. And then you start to paint yourself in a corner and all you're doing is delaying the transition process. You're like, oh, fuck, I'm going to get out. What do I do? And then you just go into that. You don't really transition. You don't really grow. And it's like, fuck, well, I hope that contract stays. It doesn't get rebid in 3 years. And I hope, you're still the big dog because more and more young guys are coming out that are more current than you or better than you. And you're going to have to transition eventually, right? It's good if you're like strapped for cash and you need a job and you're like, maybe you haven't gone to school or even if you did, nothing's interested in you. I think it's good, but at the same time, you need to realize what's happening, that you are delaying that transition process and you are kind of creating an environment to kind of put you in a stage of arrested development, of not growing past that. So as long as you have that awareness while you go into that directly out of the military, I think you'll be fine.
So let's start jumping into your experience. I mean, you were highlighting it right there, but right off the bat, you're gonna go protect some ships from some pirates. How did that feel going into that? And I guess what were your expectations? You kind of highlighted how the job actually went, but what were your expectations going there?
I thought we were gonna be under attack every night, throwing down, running low on ammo, and there was a bunch of older ex-SEALs that didn't know how to put together their body armor. Some of them, don't get me wrong, there were some rock star guys there, but I just happened, however the dice were rolled, I got put with these teams. I'm like, what the fuck? And then they're getting paid more than me or as much as me. And I'm like, it's hurting my ego. Like, how is this guy the team leader? He can't even fucking load his magazine with the bullets facing the right way. Like, what the fuck am I doing here? So it was like, boom, culture shock, and then boring. And I'm like, fuck, I need to find a way out.
Mm-hmm. I mean, going from, SEAL Team 6 as well, that had to be just a massive change in who surrounded you there.
Humility check.
Yeah. So one of the parts you point out that's interesting too is a lot of times you guys almost act as barriers as well. I thought that was interesting with the pirates is they scout to see what boats actually have you guys.
Yeah, so it's a money thing. If they see people on the bridge, they're not going to mess with that ship, right? They see guys with guns on it. They're just scouting. And then for a while there, the shipping company said, well, no pirates are attacking. Why are we paying these security companies? Well, 3 months after that happened, pirates are looking, no one on the bridge. They start attacking again. And then, guess what? So it's back, forth.
So moving forward, you find another interesting opportunity, getting to work as a mercenary and going to Yemen of all places. How did that present itself, and what was your familiarity with the situation in Yemen at that point?
I got a call from someone I knew, and he's like, hey, we're doing some big things. Let's meet. I want to talk about it. Met with him. He couldn't answer enough of my questions, so I said, good luck. I'm not interested. Was still trying to work an angle to get on orders and get paid at SEAL Team 17. That was kind of up in the air. And then one day, the one thing I had really banked on happening at SEAL Team 17 didn't happen. And that guy who I had met had said, hey, my boss wants to meet you, the guy that's putting all this together. Would you be willing to meet him? And, with that thing falling through at SEAL Team 17 and getting that phone call again, I said, all right, let's do it. So I went up, had a dinner, met, we felt each other out, asked questions. I asked questions, he asked questions. Finally came to an agreement, and we were set to leave the following week.
That was a really interesting part because you were talking about what are some of the questions that you're looking for there? Like, is it to figure out the project, the professionalism? Like,
The
what are you looking
project,
for?
I don't care about the project. Unless it's like, I am a man of some scruples. So if it's like, we're going to go do something super bad, like, no. Project, bad guys, fine, easy, no problem there. It was more logistics, cash flow, who's paying, is it legal, right? That's pretty much it.
How often do you think these operations tiptoe the line of like legal?
I think that depends on who's on the ground and on the political situation at the time. I mean, at one time, I was looking at something in Libya to go help somebody do something that the U.S. was backing, and then a month later, the U.S. is saying, no, we're backing this guy now. So, like, I could have been on the good side, been there for 2 months, fly into JFK, and they're like, whoa. You didn't get the memo. We're on this guy's side now. So, I mean, it can change in an instant. But for the most part, if you do it right, you can really stay on the legal side of things.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that's something the public doesn't understand well? Because and we'll dive further into Yemen here, but granted, it's maybe not the most reputable or politically neutral website, but BuzzFeed, they were putting out all these different articles about like, hey, there's mercenaries over in Yemen and they're doing this. Do you think that's something that people don't understand? Is that you guys are obviously playing by the rules, but also there's reasons that there is backing for some of these activities to be happening?
I think the people only know what they're told. And for example, that article is very bombastic, right? Like, oh, look at this. Oh my God. And like money figures and all this stuff. To get the clicks. I mean, it's not even a news company anymore. I don't think.
Yeah, I think they're done.
So it's enough to be annoyed by it, but it's not enough for me to be like, no, I want to do an article with the Wall Street Journal and make this right and tell you what it really is. I mean, if they reached out, yeah, of course I'd do it, but I wasn't like, I'm on this crusade to fix this misinformation campaign about what a mercenary is. I didn't give a shit, right? Yeah, there's definitely a need, and it's a tool. It's a tool that can be used and deployed, and if used smartly, it's fine. I mean, just like the military, if a unit from whatever branch is doing what they're supposed to do in Afghanistan, and then they go, or Iraq, and they go and do something they're not supposed to do, then it's bad, right? Mm-hmm. So everyone has their left and right lateral limits they need to play in.
So jumping further into Yemen, what was the operations that you guys were actually going to do? And I guess, again, you're going from SEAL Team 6.
So we were pretty much there. We started off just doing an audit and advising and assisting one of our allies' special units there. Right? And they're like, hey, we want to go do these missions. Like, okay, we can roll with. And that was it. It wasn't really us alone. It was us with this unit that, we're trying to train up and see if we can work with through language barriers and tactics.
What were the targets, and were you surprised at the level of targets that you were hitting, either in the direction of either the low on the totem pole or surprisingly high in comparison again?
It's been the run of the mill. You hear phrases in the SEAL team: bomb maker, financier, Taliban commander. Like, that's pretty much. Which one is he? He's a bomb maker? Okay, he's a financier? Yeah, I thought so. And that's kind of all of the things I've ever even heard, and that's in the SEAL teams, and that was all the same stuff we heard overseas after the SEAL teams as well.
Mm-hmm. Was there anything specific from Yemen that stood out? Good, bad, ugly, whatever it might be.
It was crazy to see how broken up everything is in Yemen. You have so many different factions, Houthis, and you have, Al-Qaeda, Arabian Peninsula, and you have Saudi helping the other half of the Yemen side. and Iran helping the Houthis. It was like, just like, this is confusing. And that's what I think people don't know is that World War II, trench, different uniform, boom. And you go in these other countries, there's 3 sides, there's 4 sides. Okay, there's 4 sides. And then within one of those sides, there's factions against each other. You go down this road and the guy on the checkpoint is one of our friendlies. Well, guess what? Next week, it's one of the bad guys. So like that environment, super fucking difficult to operate in. Yeah.
And what are some of the specifics that make it really difficult to operate? Is it planning, strategy? Is it just
planning, strategy? Who's in the area? Is it bad guy week or is it good guy week? You know, did the bad guys go in and pay everyone $20 and say, now you're with us? Or like, it's just ever changing.
Do you think, how prepared were you for that type of environment?
I was accepting of it, but definitely not prepared. I was like, holy fuck, like this is really, because you would see some of it in Iraq and Afghanistan, like, oh, this guy and this tribe and this family doesn't like that. But this was, I think, it was pretty fresh. You know, it was Yemen, and it's a small country, so it was pretty fresh. It was very compact, and there's just so many moving pieces. So I mean, I accepted it and tried to learn as much as I could about every single group there was and who was friends with who and who wasn't.
So moving forward, and again, probably one of the most intense stories I've ever heard. Going into Belgrade, where does this story start?
So I was gonna go do an intel gathering mission on somebody in Serbia. Easy, definitely not the same risk as Yemen. Go in there, don't know anybody. You know, I start working my way around the city, trying to find dirt on this guy, trying to find someone who knows this guy and where he lives, and make friends with this kid who knew somebody that worked at this guy's office, right? So I was like, okay, I've been here 2 months. That's thin, but fuck, it's something. I said, okay, let's have a party. Have her come over. So, you know, I'm going pretty native. I've seen the landmarks. I know the people at the restaurant, and I know the bar owner and the hotel guys. So, you know, I make my way around and finally get some traction. And then the night of the party, the kid that was pretty much recruited to be a source, he comes back to his apartment, and I'm there, gets thrown in handcuffs, and I look at him and I look back up to where the door is, and I have a pistol pointed at my head, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, was this kid on to me? Did he roll on me? Like, what the fuck's going on? And, you know, I had a guy who was probably no more than 21 years old with a pistol to my head, wearing, I thought, like, they look like the uniforms you bought at Party City. You know, I'm like, is this fucking real? Like, it was a lot to like try to, I'm like, this looks like shit. You know, and he's like terrified, and he's got his finger on the trigger, and he's shaking, and I can hear the magazine spring, like I was like, you know, after all the shit I've been through, I hope I don't go out by an accidental discharge from a Serbian police officer, right? So I'm just like, whoa. They go through this kid's house. They ask me all these questions, like half in Serbian and English. And I'm like, dude, what? Like, you're American? I said, yeah. Passport? Yeah, here. What? Goes into this kid's safe, and he's got all these hunting rifles and stuff. All legal, you know, he's just like, oh, you like guns? I'm like, as much as the next guy, bro. What the fuck do you want from me? And then from there, it just turned into a very long, frustrating ordeal.
So what happened next? What was the next step?
We get taken to the police station, held in my little room. The hour goes by, and then I get brought in for questioning. And there's this big, huge dude, like 6'5", like 250, like barrel-chested, but like big dude. He's like got tactical pants on and tactical shoes, like the Oakley fucking assault boots or something like that. Okay, this guy maybe special unit, whatever. And he's like, who are you? I said, I'm Dan, what's up? He's like, what's your job? I'm like, oh, I'm in the private military. Like, oh, what qualifies you for that? Oh, I was in the Navy. I was a SEAL. So all the gears start spinning. There's an ex-Navy SEAL private military guy in Serbia. And maybe I should have done more homework on, Serbia, but it's almost like they didn't like their country enough to believe that someone like me would just come visit. They're like, yeah, but why are you here? I'm like, dude, I don't know, fuck, why not? It's cool. Are you this 3-letter? Are you that 3-letter? Are you DEA? I'm like, no, man. Okay. And this goes on for like an hour. And he's really feeling me out. And then after about an hour, he laughs. He's like, fuck. Like, he's like, you're not lying. I said, no. He's like, all right, let me tell you what's going to happen. And he went like full good cop. He's like, this is already getting ran to the newspaper. This is going to get ran to the newspaper. There's an ex-Navy SEAL here. No one knows why he's here. He's a professional soldier. And they're going to run with this. They're going to say you're here to kill the president. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. And I laughed. At first, he's like, dude, like buckle up. I was like, fuck. And that's when I knew he believed me, and I believed him.
Jesus Christ.
I was like, fuck. And he couldn't have been more right.
In terms of breaking down, like let them know kind of your background and everything, I get like why did you feel comfortable doing that at that time? Like is that
yeah, because it's not illegal.
Yeah.
To work for Blackwater or go on pirate ships.
Yeah. And obviously you weren't there for what they thought you were.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you were telling them that, you're kind of like, give them background and
yeah. And you have to remember once you start lying, you have to ask yourself, is this worth lying about? And then you have to remember everything, right? Like, don't lie. Well, I didn't need to lie about being an independent contractor or mercenary because, like, you're allowed to go do pirate stuff, right? So I was like, boom. Now's not the time for a lie. I don't need one. But they just ran with that and went,
damn. So I guess, as you were hinting there, the newspapers start releasing, it starts hitting everywhere.
Rewind. So I'm there. I get pulled up again by the big guy comes in my room. I don't know if it's been 1 day or 2 days. Kind of delirious. I have a big shining bright light in my room. I can't really tell the fucking time of day. They give me a shitty sandwich, use it as a pillow, right? It's laying down on the fucking floor because the little bench isn't long enough. All right. A couple days go by. I get pulled out of the room again with 2 other guys in like fancier clothes. And like the big dude's like, come on, these guys are with Organized Crime Division. I'm like, Organized Crime Division? He's like, oh yeah. The guy whose house you're at, he was arrested with 2 other people. That's 4 people. Anything over 3 is organized crime. So now I'm getting like wrapped up into this organized crime thing. So I'm like, fuck. So I'm sitting there and they're just asking, I'm sleep deprived. And the first time I got interrogated with the big cop, I was pretty well rested and I was able to have a conversation. And, he tried, build rapport, small talk, sneak a question in. I'd be like, I saw that coming. Well, I was sleep deprived and I was like, fuck, like I'm really trying to dance with these guys. And I'm like, okay, I'm outclassed. They got me. I'm just going to lock it up. And they got frustrated. And, one of the really cool parts was the only guy who knew English was the big guy. We'll call him a good cop. And the two organized crime guys say something. And the big guy kind of turns his back to him and goes, they want to know if you'll take a lie detector test. And then before I could even say anything, he just leaned in real close and said, say no. I said, all right. And I said, no. He's like, fuck that. So I was like, okay, this guy knows, this guy's cool. Up to this point, right? I don't know. And then I got brought in and asked if I want a lawyer appointed to me by the state, or do I want to use the lawyer of the kid whose house I was at? The young man whose house I was at. And I was like, Because now I'm like, how this happened? Am I getting set up? What's going on? I said, well, if I go with a state-appointed lawyer, I'm 100% fucked. If I go with his, it's a 50-50 chance he's trying to fuck me on my job, what I'm trying to do here. So I'll take the 50-50 over the guaranteed not going to turn out well. Okay. Another day goes by, and then we all get loaded up in a paddy wagon, go to courthouse. In the hallway, I'm just bombarded by lawyers and shit. And one guy pulls me aside and he goes, Mr. So-and-so and Mr. So-and-so say hello. And I said, you're hired. Right? He gave me the secret names. I said, okay. He's like, all these guys are going to make a statement. You go make a statement. What is it? Yeah, okay, that works. Okay, go. Made a statement. And the judge, this woman was like, look, I don't know what's going on, but we're going to hold you guys until the investigation's over. And my lawyer said, the lawyer at the time said, that's pretty standard. Right? And we all get back in another paddy wagon. And the kid next to me, whose house I was, I'm like, dude, where are we going? He's like, we're going to prison. Fucking okay, here we go. We're going to Serbian prison. Let's go. Go to prison, and the guards are just like, everyone's already talking, like, American? I'm like, yeah. Like, oh, Kosovo, you bombed Kosovo. I'm like, nah, man, like I was like 16. I wasn't a 16-year-old fighter pilot, man. And they're like, no, you fucking, I was like, okay, this will be fun, right? Get there. The guys in front of me each got a wool blanket, a bowl, and a spoon. I get there. Blanket, bowl, spoon. And then he's like, what? And it's like, oh, pretty much made me take out my shoelace. So I'm like, these guys didn't have to. It doesn't matter. So that was the beginning of the special treatment for me. I was like, oh, you little fucking turd. So my shoelaces did 2.5 days in a really shitty cell with like some career criminal kid that was kind of getting on my nerves. And apparently that's where they do observation. Like, okay, is this guy fucking crazy? Should we put him in this room? Does he have family beef with this guy who's in the same block? And then I got transferred into another room that was a little bit nicer, but there was some interesting characters in there. And we were limited to 30 minutes outside the room versus 2 hours like everybody else.
Who are these characters?
It was like the terrorist room. So you had me, this Croatian kid that was a professional football hooligan that came to one of the soccer games and beat somebody up. And then this other guy who was accused of beating his wife to death with a hammer, who was like a famous Serbian singer. And then there was this guy, this old man, something to do with kidnapping gypsies. So I was like, okay. And, it was like a shitty room. Everyone's taking blue, white, pink, yellow pills given out by the prison staff or traded amongst themselves. And I'm like, no, I'm good. No thanks. They'd stay up all night, leave the radio on and writing a little manifesto. One night I finally got tired of it and threw the radio on the ground and broke his little portable radio. Apparently it takes 6 months of paperwork and requests to get something like that from the outside. So he was kind of sad, but it was day 13 of 2 hours of sleep. I'm like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I think the next day, I got transferred over into the room I would be the remainder of my time there.
At that point, did a majority of those around you also know the case, your background?
Oh, so yeah, going back to the newspapers. So it took me about 5 to 6 days to even get to the jail proper. I get in there and, I'm like, I'm going to be the gray man. I've seen the movies. So this kid's like, oh, you're the American. I'm like, what? And he gets up on the top bunk that has a window and looks out to the courtyard. Yeah, American. And I'm like, yo, dude, shut the fuck up. And he just laughs and he turns on the TV and there's a stock photo of a spec ops dude with a hat and an M4 and it says Daniel Corbett, fucking SEAL. I'm just like, fuck. So much for being a gray man. This shit's the good cop called it. Boom. I was like, fuck. He's here to kill the president. I'm like, oh, great. Come to find out, all the prisoners and all the prison guards hate their president. So I was revered. Like it actually.
Really?
Yeah, it was weird. Like I was walking to the walk one day and I see prison guards saluting. I'm like, oh shit, like maybe like the main top, prison fucking guard is here. And I turn around and the guard's saluting at me. And I'm like, okay. And, random kids are like, oh, Foka. And Foka means seal, like the animal in Serbian. So like random dudes be like, what's up, man? And I'm like, hey. So I just kind of rolled with it. I'm like, oh, I can't really talk about why I'm here. And they're like, oh, you fucking legend, bro. So I was like, okay, sure. Yeah, it was a trip.
What point did it start to settle in that you're like, damn, I'm in?
In April, so I got arrested January, the last day of January. And then in April, they had like gotten everybody together. Lawyer was visiting everybody. They all had their own representation. We go in and make statements. I said, I was at the house. He left, came in, arrested. Okay, everything lines up. I see no reason to hold you. 3 months in, okay, fine, little hiccup. Things happen. Go back to my room, start packing a trash bag. That's what you use in prison. Pack all my shit. And prison guard opens the door. He's like, Foka. I'm like, yeah, of course, I'm ready. He's like, no, leave that here. Your lawyer's here. Like this? He's like, no. Lawyer's sweating. He got there just before visiting hours closed. He goes, hey, I know she said there's no reason to keep you, but like her phone rang and said someone on the other line said the American will be charged. I said, oh, he's like, now you need to settle it. Because this is not going to go fast. So I was held from last day of January until about November 10th without even being charged with a crime.
Jesus Christ.
I was held for fucking 11 months with no charges. And I was like, fuck. And like every month, the lawyer would come in, hey, I'll keep visiting you. I'm like, dude, don't. If you got nothing, no news. Just fucking whatever. I'll deal with it,
Figure it out.
Yeah. So, yeah, they just held me there. And every time he appealed to get me on house arrest, there was obviously a leak because the day before a panel would vote on my house arrest, front page news would come out with me on the picture and all this crazy shit, which was telling because nothing had happened. There was no progression in my case, but it happened to come out each time I was up for house arrest. Boom. He's like, hey, this keeps happening, but I'll keep being a good lawyer doing it. I'm like, dude, don't waste your time. You know what they're gonna say. He's like, just let me do it, because all it is a date change on the top of it. I said, okay, fine. Like, I'm not holding my breath. He's like, you shouldn't. Thanks. So my lawyer definitely was like pretty gangster and like told me a lot of the hard truths. Mm-hmm. And then I was his boss, like a legendary lawyer. And this is when everything got crazier. In June or July, decided to take my case and like represent me too. And he ended up getting assassinated on the street. So like, that caused a big uproar, and like everyone thought I had something to do with it. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I mean, it just looked even worse and worse and worse. And I was like, so finally we got charged, which was like a celebration, right? Because like it starts the next process. Yeah. We get charged with possession of firearm and explosives and distribution of firearms and explosives. There's some crazy shit. It's like, okay, fine. Then we waited another month because now no judge wanted to take the case. Because the judge was to uphold justice. They look at all the statements. I'm going to walk. Didn't do anything. But the pressure when your Secretary of Defense is saying, oh, he had a gun and he wasn't here to shoot fish in the Danube River. So now there's the political pressure for whoever takes on my case fucking make sure something happens to me. And then there's their professional pressure is to look at the evidence presented. So we finally got a judge.
And the lawyer.
Got yeah.
When did this hit stateside?
I think it was like 2 months before anyone knew. Because I think like I don't think it did. Like friends and family knew what was going on through the embassy, but like, which didn't do shit anyway, by the way. But nothing really, it was very like, I come back, like, hey, like, what's up? You've been hanging out on the East Coast? I'm like, I was in prison in Serbia. But that's when Eddie Gallagher's thing was going on at the same exact time.
Yeah. Do you think, I mean, was there also just a ton of hush-hush coming out that like it just wasn't spreading?
Yeah, and I'm fine with it. I wasn't looking for scrutiny or parade. I didn't give a fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what happened?
I was just surprised. Like, fuck, I thought this would be international news.
Yeah, I mean, it should be, like, without a doubt, but.
And then, like, okay, BuzzFeed did an article, but, like, they're not even in business anymore, so people read, there's, like, Inquirer, BuzzFeed, like, so it's like,
you also never know what's real coming out of BuzzFeed, too.
So I wasn't anything but surprised, just like, wow, I would have thought this would have been known.
Mm-hmm. So you finally get charged. The judge finally takes the case. And then we start trial in January. And the trial takes 6 months. And how does this start going? What's the process there?
Process there is because they're so backlogged. You show up. So let's say the court days are broken into hours. So like one day is like 2 hours of court. So you go there, opening statements. Get charged, and court starts in January. And the way it works there is each part of the trial is a day, and you have to wait a month before the next part. So January hits, opening statements, wait a month, come back, and then like arguments, wait a month, come back, cross-examination, wait a month, come back, expert witness, wait a month, come back, phone messages between individuals, wait a month, come back. Oh, guess what? The court-appointed translator didn't show up. Go back and wait a month. I'm just like, fuck. It's just a beat down, waiting for your court date. Oh, nope, no court today. Fuck, another month. You're like really holding on to that, that day and that next month, yeah.
Do you think that they were trying to break you in that circumstance?
No, I think that's
the natural process.
I think their judicial system was doing the best they could. I think it's because there's a guy there's no right to a speedy trial there, and there was a guy there because that was like the prison jail, which is like I guess not as bad but worse because you're like you are in your room 22 hours a day. He's been there for 5 years trying to get through trial. 5 years. So like they don't give a fuck. And if it never comes up, he'll die there.
Did that start crossing your mind?
No, because I knew they wanted to do something with me.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to do something with me. I think they're trying to give me 12 years at the prison there. I'm like, okay, I'll just be like, is there a track there I can run? I was like, planning my life being in prison 12 years or like, do I escape? Just really like weighing my options.
Putting all the processes.
But yeah, like, okay, what are my options when this does happen? So the trial goes really well. I'm pretty sure the judge was flirting with me the whole time. Bananas. There's no jury. It's just one judge who makes the decision. So like,
could go either way.
Right? Yeah. Like, oh, I don't like black pants. I'm like, sorry, this is all I have. You know what I mean? So you're just kind of like at the whim of one person. And plus, the state was charging me. So there was like government prosecutors versus a team of private defense lawyers. So like they were just outclassed. Mm-hmm. They were outgunned, like big time outgunned.
So what were some of the arguments that were happening in the case and like
case was argument, Dan, you know Serbian. No, I don't. I said, well, they asked me that after 11 months. I said, yeah, I can count to 10 and say every bad word under the sun. And everyone starts laughing. No. Did you know Serbian before you came here? I'm like, no, why the fuck? Why? No. And then, the judge would be like, do you have any more questions? And I'd look at the prosecution table and like prosecution didn't really have anything because the three other guys in my case were either, I don't know who this guy is. I've never seen him. I've never heard about him. And he didn't have a gun. I did in another city. So they were like, there was really nothing for me to do. Stand up. What did you mean by this? I meant that. Okay, sure, sit down, it's fine. Like, I was so over it, right? You can only, I mean, there's 11 months waiting. Like you can't be scared for 11 months, or you can't like be nervous for 11 months. You're just so over it. I'm like, what? No, I didn't. Fuck. Yeah, I can count to 10 and say, fuck you. Oh, damn. My lawyer's like, dude, shut the fuck up, sit down. I'm like, fuck, dude, this is bullshit. Like,
Yeah. What was your experience in Serbian prison at this time too? Is there anything like?
No, man. I mean, I had one guy try to fuck with me, but it didn't work. And like the whole block loved me. The prison I was at was everyone waiting trial. So no one was there trying to fuck anybody up and then go stand in front of the judge and be like, I'm an innocent little church-going boy, right? They were all just kind of like, Serbia is a very homogeneous country. So 99% Caucasian from the same religious background. Like the biggest rivalries would be, do you like Partizan or do you like Crvena Zvezda, Red Star soccer team? Like if you or that team or that team, that was it.
How was the atmosphere in terms of like the facilities, halfway decent?
Oh, it was trash, dude. Like I think it was built pre-World War II. Fucking, I learned how to use toothpaste to like block up little pieces of wood that was like our bed frame, and like the little little cushions that made our mattress. You got to squirt a bunch of toothpaste in there, let it harden to keep the bed bugs trapped inside. There's no air conditioning. It's fucking hot and humid as fuck. And then the winter snow comes through the window. So, I mean, it was like being at a shitty deployment at a shitty outstation, I guess.
Getting towards the end there, the case is starting to get towards that 6-month mark, and you're kind of making progress. Like, how confident were you it was going to go in your direction?
I was 50-50. I was ready for both. I was ready to walk out and not be surprised, and I was ready to go do 12 years in Mitrovica, the other prison, equally accepting of both.
And how did everything end up wrapping out? I mean, you're here, so.
So the verdict date, we all show up, and of course, on this day, I get the worst translator I've been given, like the worst. I got nervous at first because he stood up and it's like, they read everything. Like, you did this, you did that, you're accused of this, you're accused of that. You sit back down. Then each one of the 3 other guys stand up. Time served. Stay in jail 1 more year. 6-month house arrest. I stand up. For the charges of bop. And, it's all in Serbian. And then my translator, I'm like, what'd she say? She's like, you can go. I said, yeah, but like under what terms? Because I was afraid they were going to do, if they did let me go, they were going to say, guilty, time served, you can go home. And I didn't want that because I wasn't guilty. Mm-hmm. I said, under what conditions? Innocent? What? You can go. I'm like, fuck this. Like, I'm done. I'll ask my lawyer after. Then the judge addresses me with perfect English. Sorry this happened to you. I hope this doesn't make you think poorly on Serbia. You'll be compensated for your legal fees, any wages lost while incarcerated, a daily rate while you're incarcerated, and any emotional or mental damage. First, you need to go to the customs cops after you check out, the custom police station, because you've been here for more than 6 months. I'm like, yeah, you think?
Yeah.
Get out, go get my belongings, try to go say bye to everybody, but they're on the walk. They wouldn't let me go see the homies, right? But guys, I kind of saw them. They're like, yeah. So like, if I could make it out innocent with all the bad press, it was like a big fucking glimmer of hope for everybody. Like, whoa, if he can do it, yeah. But I mean, it was straight up Shawshank Redemption, and they're like, everybody's innocent, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How did it feel walking out finally after?
Again, man, a lot of the things in my life you work so hard for, they're so long. You're like, yeah. I'm more like agitated it took so long. Mm-hmm. Not like, oh, I'm a free man. It was like, yeah, of course. Can I fucking go home now?
Yeah, I didn't do shit. Like,
yeah.
This is what it should be.
Let's fucking go. This should have been like this the whole time. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
On the plane ride back home, I mean, did you ever kind of stop and think and be like, damn, what would have 12 years been like if I was sitting there?
Yeah, but what was scarier was car's been towed and impounded, fucking don't have a job. Mm-hmm. We'll see what the reserves have to say about this. My mom and dad met me when I got off the plane. Here's a trash bag full of mail. Oh, you owe the IRS $86,000. I'm like, fuck. So like, I can't imagine the guys who are locked up for 5-10 years, whatever, and you come back and they're like, you have to file like Chapter 11 or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, fuck. So yeah, I was thinking about it, to me, it was, amor fati. It was like I was going to embrace whichever one and do the best at that, whatever it was. But yeah, I got home and my credit score was like 520. Bank account drained. Owed the IRS like 86.5. Could get 3 credit cards for like $300 a piece. Like that was it. I'm like, all right, time to rebuild.
Did the government did they reach out at all?
So everyone asked, why didn't you sign the thing for the government to help or assist or whatever? Because I didn't trust the embassy. Because the guy representing the U.S. Embassy was like, hey, maybe you should take a time served, guilty, da-da-da-da. So like I wasn't going to touch anything he put in front of me. Mm-hmm. And in SEER school, it's like, oh, if you can talk to the Red Cross or the U.S. Embassy, you're good. But what if you have my situation? They don't cover that. Now I'm like, fuck, I'm like uncharted waters. Now it's like, I have to be very careful with the things I say and decisions I make.
Because, they're not always going to have
it
your
wasn't
back.
that automatically it's a good thing, because it wasn't.
Why do you think they handled it so poorly on their end?
I have no idea. Mm-hmm. Terrified.
Do you think they just...
I think it might have just been a personality thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because even the female Serbian national who came in with the American embassy worker, she worked at the embassy. She was like, I'm so sorry this is happening to you. I've seen the newspapers. It's ridiculous. And then the American was like, well, if you don't take a deal, you might get more time. I'm like, what? Like, even if I had like damning evidence, video evidence of me being totally crazy, like kind of have my back a little bit, dude.
Yeah.
But there's nothing against me, and you're just like this like super scared dude that's like, oh my God. I'm like, I'm done talking to you. And then he'd always ask like, how's the food? I'm like, can you change it? Oh no, but everyone says it's bad. I'm like, why the fuck you ask me about the food? Yeah, it's shitty. Who cares? It was ridiculous.
Do you think that there was either a worry that, like, do you think he, in the back of his head, he's like, I wonder if this is true? Like, do you think he thought that at all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, you have the secretary, I believe, like the Minister of Defense or Secretary of Defense, like a dude that's like president, another dude. That dude was saying I had a gun and I was arrested with a gun. Like, I wasn't arrested with a gun. I didn't have a gun. If I did, I'd be in fucking jail in Serbia. Mm. So you read that in a paper, every paper, I actually wouldn't even blame him if he believed it, but be like, be a little bit biased for me, bro. Like, fuck it, we'll still get you
work
out of
on
here.
my side.
No,
Yeah.
it wasn't. It was
You're
like,
an American. Let's
I
bring
read
it
this
home.
in the newspaper. I'm like, fucking cares.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you get back. I guess this is a good segue into, what do you got going on now? And
Yeah,
what is some of the
so
stuff you've
I
done?
got back 30 days in. I get a phone call asking if I've retired from the game, more or less. And I said, no, I'm playing with some options. He's like, oh. I said, what do you got going on? How good your Spanish? I said, it's all right. Good. How fast can you be at this location? I said, how fast can you get me a ticket? And then the next day I flew out. So 30 days home and I was already back to work.
Right back on the job like that.
And did that job for about 3 months. Came back, and that's when I got a phone call saying, hey, I'm a book agent. I heard about your story. Do you want to write a book? And at the time, I was still chasing down, the Mercenary, White Dragon, and didn't want to do a book because I knew probably gigs up after we have a book out. And then he called back again 2 or 3 months later, and I said, yes. Yeah, we did the book.
We got the book right there coming out August 20th. Really pumped for that. I guess, is there any other items that you want to shout or anything you got coming on down the pipeline, places that they might be able to find you as well?
Yeah, I'm at American Mercenary on Instagram. It's a newer page, so bear with me. I'm still learning social media. I'm working on some things, working on an app, and talking to a pretty big studio right now for an adaptation of the book. So we'll see. Nothing solid yet, but the actor and studio we're talking to right now, I'd be very happy if this all came together.
Well, Daniel, I know we were talking about this before the pod. We're going to get you down here when, you know, all this stuff down the line keeps coming to fruition. And yeah, like I said, friends outside the show, we're going to be doing tons of fun stuff. But seriously, thank you for making the trip out here today. And like I said at the beginning, you lived a hell of a life, man. There's only more good stuff coming. So I'm pumped to see it.
I hope so. Thanks for having me, bud.